how many downloads of Jim and Bill It's Another Day podcast?
Today, the podcast show has fetched 400 million downloads since its start, and an average of 350,000 downloads per episode, about 3.9 million downloads per week.
Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Before we do anything, let's do some housekeeping.
Okay.
Right Side Coffee. If you don't have Right Side Coffee, you're on the wrong side of the fence, and you need to jump over because Right Side Coffee is good in your pantry and good in your belly. There you go. See?
Yes.
And don't you feel better?
I feel a lot better. As a matter of fact, I was feeling kind of miserable this morning, and then I took a good swig of Right Side Coffee, Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee. There's a difference. Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee, it's made with the finest beans, roasted to perfection in a medium blend and a medium decaf blend that makes you just want to wake up and start your day, you know? And here's the thing. You can't find it in your local supermarket. You can't find it anywhere other than rightsideshop.com. Rightsideshop.com. Go there. It's right there. You can order as many as you want. You probably get them before Christmas, don't you think? I think that
I don't know, because the things are getting quick. You might want to, when you go there, it'll tell you on shipping. I think it'll tell you, because that is one of the things. Certain places, even Amazon is having a problem now, you know, like the overnight guarantee is 2 or 3 days.
Interrupted by drones.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because when I was out of radio and managing a Walgreens.
Yes.
And God, this was over 10 years ago. And, we got, I got the morning memo one day and I'm going, what the hell? And we were doing an experiment, ironically, down in New Jersey to deliver prescriptions via drones. And I was sitting there with the other manager. I'm going, is this what I'm, he goes, yeah. I'm sitting there going, if I were a drug cartel, because of, there might be a class 3,
don't give them
class
an idea.
5 drugs out there. Kaboom! Yeah, we got our payday.
No, I'm also thinking if you want to deliver your drugs, and if you're a drug cartel, just design them to look like a drugstore drone, and you're all set.
Yeah, I don't think that ever really got off the ground. That was kind of like FedEx's. Yeah, literally, that drone didn't fly. It's kind of like the old FedEx thing back in the 80s or something like that.
Anyway,
they were going to go.
We should remind people it's rightsideshop.com, okay? Right Side Shop. The only place where you hear Juan, Jose, and the Border Crossers sing this.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
And they do such a nice job, too, don't they? Anyway, boy, Bill, we will acknowledge the fact there was a terrible shooting at a school yesterday in Madison, Wisconsin. And even it's like 18 hours later, people don't have all the facts or the details. They're speculating and stuff. And, of course, within the first hour, Joe jumped out and said all the guns should be confiscated, like he...
What a hypocrite!
Yeah. Oh,
didn't he just pardon Hunter over his gun and all this crap?
What did you hear? What did you hear him say about Luigi Mangione? Nothing.
Yeah.
Guy shoots.
He's a hypocrite.
Yeah, but it didn't fit his storyline. But anyway, all I'm going to say, I haven't. I don't want to get into it. I think it's a terrible, sad story, and also a distraction from a lot of things that are going on in the world. That are affecting all of us.
We can wrap this up really easily. I mean, it is sad. We've got young people that their minds have been, polluted with crap. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
propaganda
I agree.
crap. And this young girl is a feminist and wanted all guys dead, and said, "Okay, I'm going to grab a gun." Maybe had a few lessons and went out and did something. Well. This is a person that needs mental health, and needs some help. And too late now, but either way, we need to get it at the root. Taking away the gun is not going to take away the problem. We've got to go to the problem, get down to the source. And when people need help, we need to get it for them pronto. And
folks,
we're not doing that. We're overlooking everything.
The left wants you to think that the problem is the gun. And it's like saying that the carpenter is a bad carpenter because of the hammer. You know,
Well, that's true in my case, but
well, I'm sure. But the thing is, it's the problem is, like Bill said, mental health. Mental health. And this goes back to over the last 50 years, we've closed down more mental hospitals than you can imagine. Yes, the ones that that were open back in the 70s were a disaster. Pennhurst, places like that, the Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in West Virginia. These places were pits. But it's because society didn't look at the problem properly, and they would have, for example, 2,000 people in a place that was designed to hold 200 people. That is a problem with how the thing is being run, not a problem with having the hospital. Maybe you've got to expand your hospital. Maybe you have to put more money into making the hospital more more workable, more of a place where people can heal and not a warehouse for sick people. That was the problem. So no, what did society do? It did a complete reaction, like, we'll close them all down and put them out. We'll put them in, what do they call them, communal homes or halfway houses and now, literally, you've got tens of thousands of mentally ill people sleeping in tents on sidewalks in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Boston. You name it, they're there. We call them homeless. They're not all sick, but a lot of them are.
There are mentally ill people that have positions of power. Just because you can learn something and pass a test and do something doesn't mean that there might be something else wrong. And we haven't watched, we haven't been good brothers and keepers of our fellow man. And I'm not saying institutionalized people, but, we need to sit there and just be better caretakers of ourselves. We're not. But anyway, drones. White House came out on drones.
Well, yeah, that's that. The story we had about the shooting, we're not ignoring it. We're just not going to add to it. There were everybody this morning, all the major morning shows. The first story is the shooting in Wisconsin, and they'll have a stagnant shot of the school for the whole show, like something's going to happen there now.
Look, we talked about the drones yesterday, and we laid out some theories that were out there. We're going to go to a different level today with it. So if we hem and haw a little bit, this is kind of a new theory. It's our theory, and we'll leave it at that. Yeah. But it was interesting. John Kirby came out yesterday. Now, with all the drone activity going on, he came out and says, we assess that the sightings to date include a combination of lawful commercial drones, hobbyist drones, and law enforcement drones, as well as manned fixed-wing aircraft, helicopters, and even stars that might have mistakenly been reported as drones.
The guy's a liar.
John Kirby, the National Security Council spokesperson, that's what he said yesterday. So,
yeah,
ain't nothing to worry about here, friends. Don't be looking around. Well, you say that, and then you've got all the sightings going on. Now, yesterday we were talking about maybe a dirty nuke, maybe a bomb, maybe this, maybe that. And if it was in the United States and they're looking for something, I could understand that. But drones have been sighted everywhere.
They have seen them in New Jersey, New York, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, and California among the states in the U.S. And, of course, they've had sightings in Europe, too, at Ramstein Air Base in Germany. They found them there. So, and they found some, I believe, I heard them say there were sightings in England and France. Now, they can be any number of things, but, and by the way, if it were our country that was initiating these drones, who's to say they weren't launched from Ramstein or a military base?
Well, now that's interesting. Friend of mine lives in Hunlock Creek. You can look it up on the map. Hunlock
Where
Creek,
is, for those who, tell people where that is.
Okay, Bill. Yeah, if you look at Wilkes-Barre, maybe a little bit west of Wilkes-Barre. Between Wilkes-Barre and Berwick, you go up north, and you got Hunlock Creek up there.
Okay,
and
so you're talking about the northeastern part of Pennsylvania. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And you go a little bit further northeast, and I'll make this point. There's a place called, I believe it's Red Rock Mountain. And in some maps, it's when you Google it, it's kind of faded out. Mm-hmm. Now, there's lakes up there. There are fishing places to go, but there's dirt roads in the back. Now, there's an old military airstrip, very important. And there was an old base back there. There's the old depot there that's still going on. But you go on this dirt road, I got my hunting, fishing place to go to. Going to be stopped. You're just going to be stopped. They're going to tell you in their Jeeps and their guns, you got to turn around now. It's like trying to get on Area 51. You're not going to get there. The rumor is drones fly out of there. Now, with that said, Hunlock Creek. Friend of mine there owns 36 acres. Yeah, it's family, property that went down to him. And he was sitting there talking about, somebody sat there and said, yeah, I just saw something weird. And he went out and looked, and there's a little Malibu Raceway in one of the little highways out there in the country, with those go-karts you go drive. And from his property, it's 3 miles. And he saw the lights. Now, he says in 5 seconds' time, those things got from there to him and over the mountain. That's 3 miles in 5 seconds. That would be 2,160 miles an hour. I kind of have a hard time believing that speed. But, we don't know what they have. They hum. I've heard that from a lot of people.
There are videos of these drones that show them not just the propeller-driven kind that we're used to seeing, but also orb-shaped crystal like drones that they're spherical. You don't see any propellers on it at all. They are large enough to be photographed and have been not by just people on the ground, but if you look at Channel 7 WABC in New York, their news crew shot this crystal-shaped spherical drone that they couldn't figure out where it came from or what it was doing. Mm-hmm. That was over New Jersey. Now, Bill, your friend, you live close enough to New Jersey and New York where it could all be part of the same grouping. We're not talking about a great distance by air.
Okay, but let's tie in this base up at Red Rock Mountain. You can look that up, and so you get an idea of that, because the feeling is that's where they're coming from. Now, with that said, I think I mentioned a week or two ago, there's activity going on with the military in Idaho, Arizona, and Alaska, where, pilots are flying in stuff. They don't know what it is, but they're flying in cargo to these places. Are they staging areas? I don't know what is going on. One of the pilots, he doesn't know, but he just does his job. So you got that going on. Now, you look at, there's nothing going on with these drones, but there was a theory of a dirty bomb or something like that. Or I think I mentioned to you on a phone call yesterday in Australia, there is a biolab there, and the biolab was broken into, and, there's all kinds of viruses that escaped. Nobody knows where they are. Now, think about this theory for a second, because some of these drones have been seen dropping stuff, Could they be salting the ground with viruses that will be dormant in the winter, and spring come, they activate?
Well, there's also the possibility, they're missing, and it's been confirmed, 80 nuclear warheads from the closing down of the Soviet Union that was stored in the Ukraine and have been missing from the Ukraine since the war. So
now,
go ahead.
One of the people that I talked to that sighted a drone said, "Oh, this thing was huge." And I'm going, "Okay, I've heard SUV and stuff like that." He goes, "Well, you're in." I used to drive a Silverado. He doesn't know I don't have it anymore, but I drove a big Silverado Chevy truck with the big butt engine in it. So the hood of that truck, the front of that truck, is enormous, like an SUV. And he goes, yeah, it's the size of the front end of your Chevy Silverado. And I'm going, well, that's pretty big, and so
they're saying they're the size of SUVs.
yeah. Well, I'm
that's
saying
a car.
the front end of that truck you never saw. It was
Well,
pretty,
no, I have seen a Silverado truck, and I know how big they are. But an
they
SUV
could be bigger.
You get an SUV. It depends upon the model. We're talking about a full size vehicle, including hood, and these things are they're flying above. They're flying above us, and people say, well, it could be all speculation. Think of this. They've been flying for over a month now. The sightings have been over a month. They're flying over a major metropolitan area like New Jersey, and there are millions of people down below. They're flying, by the way, at night for the most part. In the daytime, I think they have had sightings, but for the most part, you see them at nighttime. There are tens of millions of people who have cameras down below. Let's say let's say 1 million people are shooting video at the same time because they see these things. There's a lot of video out there.
We know they're there, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're aware of them, and we're worried about them. Now, there was one found at an abandoned air base, naval base in New York. Now, somebody said it was abandoned, but you're saying there's a video of it being shot down by another drone.
Yeah, there's video of it being shot down.
Now, here's my question. So let's sit there and say one drone shooting down another drone. That means there are 2 drone flyers out there. Some maybe nefarious people, or we don't know, and maybe some good guys that we don't know. We have...
Which leads us to our theory.
That goes to the theory. So let's just sit there and go, let's say that we are being warmed up, that these drones are here. It's not being introduced to an alien force or anything like that. It's about we know what they're capable of. We know that something's going to go on. And perhaps, let's just say there is not a dirty nuke, but a smuggled in nuke. And it goes off. Is that excuse to suspend the government?
Absolutely. Now, here's what some people speculate, and it's something to think about. There is the deep state, and then there's the deep state, the true controlling deep state, who many people speculate is out there. Okay, it does exist.
All right.
What did you say to me yesterday about Trump getting into office in January? Didn't you say that they've already sworn that he will not be? He
would never set foot in the White House. Pelosi said it.
Okay.
Schumer said it.
All right.
Schiff has said it. They've all have said it.
All right. They've said it openly. He will never step foot in the White House. Just because he won the election doesn't really mean that he's going to step foot in the White House. But here's the big but. That didn't sound right.
Okay, this is
right.
where it comes in, folks, if you're going to it.
Yeah, if there's a group of bad guys trying to take control of our government, a truly deep state, because what we're talking about is if they set off a nuclear device, they can initiate they would call it a continuity of government, where they suspend the Constitution. They would justify it to the world. We're suspending everything because we have to maintain order and find a way to control this country. This is what they tell us. But they also
what that would mean.
But they also
Joe wouldn't be in charge, and neither would neither would Trump.
But here's the thing: they don't want Trump ever to get in, ever. So
they would never sit there and say, okay, we're going to go back to, and he can take over his term in office now.
Well, they would say we're suspending the Constitution for the sake of the country, but they're not saying when it's going to come back. There's no. They're not going to say we're suspending it for 45 days. They will say because of this major crisis to our country, we're suspending the Constitution. And we're going to go into some form of military control. And yes, Biden won't be in control. Neither will Trump. There will and this will be the deep state.
It will be the deep state, and they can, at that time, over the course of time, essentially dismantle the government so that if it ever goes back to anything, it would not be what we know. Now, what would the people do or want to do?
But here's what we're assuming. We're assuming there's only the deep state. There's only the bad guys. Mm-hmm. Right now we're seeing, basically the bad guys are trying to stop the change of government. Right. So, but when you saw that other drone shoot down a drone, it gave me pause to think that maybe, Trump said, for example, and I'm going to play it. I'll play the cut right now. This is Trump. Sure. He did a press conference. They asked him about the drones in New Jersey. Listen.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, they happen to be over Bedminster. We want to know the truth. They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
They asked, have you had an intelligence briefing on the drone? He is the president-elect. Of course he has, meatball. Mm-hmm. But here's, and by the way, he knows much more than he can talk about. He's sworn to secrecy too, But I think, Bill, here's getting back to our theory. I think if there's a bunch of bad guys out there trying to take control of the government, I think that there's and people look at Trump like, oh, poor Trump, he'll never be president. I think there's a bunch of good guys.
Yeah, we have a counterculture out there. That's the deep state, and then we probably have some good guys. But then, this would be taken and spun differently, I'm sure. What we have is not a good scenario, but let's just say there's good guys and the bad guys sit there and they do the nuke, they shut down the government. For how long do they hold that? What do we believe? And do we sit there and go, no, we've had enough.
Here's what we're
going to fight and take back our government.
Trump could never have claimed power before November 5th because he wasn't elected. He could never convince any part of the military that he was the guy to stand behind because he was not elected. It would have been a coup, and there wouldn't have been a support. But I do think now that he is president-elect, if there were a crisis going on, it would be a lot easier for him to turn to the military or factions in the military. Remember, he created Space Force, and it's now a branch of our military. There's a possibility that a lot of people in the military would stand behind him because he is the elected commander-in-chief.
If we get to this, there's going to be division in the military. What side of the fence do you stand on? Is it going to fall down political ideology, or is it going to fall on the line of, wait a minute, we are being overthrown here by a force. I have to do what's right. And with all the drones, if people sat there and said, I'm not going to take this anymore, friends, the drones are everywhere. That's one thing that they've proven. They're everywhere, and either the government's not saying what they are or anything about it because they know, or it's a show for us right now to sit there and say, stand down, because we now know that the drones are armed. They could have a nuke, they could have guns on them, and that means they could come in and take out population.
You can't go out with your shotgun or your high-powered rifle and try to take down a drone because you risk being taken down by the drone. You really do. If they have weapons on them, you don't know how powerful they are, how accurate they are. They are basically a flying computer. I was thinking as you were talking just now. We're assuming that Trump is going to be sworn in on the 20th of January. Who's to say he hasn't already been sworn in?
Well, I don't know. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. I really don't know. I was sitting here looking at a story. I think we talked about it. The U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission releases report confirming radioactive material lost in transit. Shipping container arrives damaged and empty in New Jersey.
Well, you're looking at that now? A story?
Well, I'm just saying that that goes back and, covers everything. It just popped up on the screen. I was going, oh, that's interesting. Why did it pop up? I don't know, but, there it is.
Well, I do think that we're not being told the straight story. I do think that it's part of an effort to frighten the populace, control the populace, and possibly suspend the government as we know it. And I'm still concerned about a nuclear device. I really am. I think that they wouldn't be doing if they're flying grid patterns over New Jersey. They're not looking for a bad guy. This isn't police drones looking for a drug dealer. They're looking for something far more sophisticated. These SUV size drones have got to have some sophisticated stuff on them to be able to sniff the ground.
There's either a guy in a container flying those, or they've perfected it to where it's an AI program that's running these things that has a certain amount of leeway of what it can or can't do. But I'm sure they can communicate to it and tell it what it can do. So,
well, the crazy. I watched this program on I think it's Discovery Channel, one of the Discovery channels. Skinwalker Ranch. You probably have seen it, yeah. And during one of the episodes, they hired a company to scan the area, and this company had about 150 drones. They brought them all in, and they put them in a rectangular pattern on the ground. It must have taken up maybe a football field, maybe more, of these drones. And then, like on cue, they fired it, hit the start button, and they all rose at the same time, keeping the same amount of distance separating. They didn't bunch up. They didn't bump into each other. They went up as a unit, and it's because they were talking to each other. The drones were communicating with each other.
Do you remember, I think it was in Arizona or Phoenix, the lights and they were information?
Yeah, the Phoenix,
and no one ever knew?
The Phoenix lights, yeah.
Yeah. Could that be, because that's not far from Area 51. So could we have, over the course of time, been testing out these drones?
Absolutely.
And doing stuff? I sent you a thing yesterday, a patent on a drone from 2004, and which looked like a triangular vehicle. I'm going, so it's nothing new. It's old technology, but I'm sure it's been advanced to be stealthier, faster, and carry a payload that's deadly. And we know with AI, it's got a pretty intelligent brain in it, a little microcomputer. They got the size of my hand. They've got computers that will do everything that we do on our big computer that you can put in your briefcase.
Of course.
And, I'm sure that I could take this credit card right here, and probably where you have the chip for all your banking knowledge, you could probably turn this into a credit card computer. With all the microcircuitry, it's all done.
What do they say? They say that the average cell phone has the computing capacity of the most sophisticated Pentagon computer of the 60s. The entire Pentagon.
Yeah, you got to think about this. Because of weight, the Apollo rocket, when it went up, It had the most sophisticated computer at the time, and it was big and bulky, and they had to cut it down. And by cutting it down, it had like 64 meg, and I mean, it might have only been 16 meg, and that was it. I mean, not a lot of capacity, but they put the vital stuff that it needed to control on that because we didn't have the microcircuits. Now we can sit there and put a supercomputer in a pin dot.
You know, you have to ask yourself. We're having an interesting program here, friends, and maybe we're a bit off our normal course, but there's a lot to talk about because there's a lot of strange stuff happening. You know, and we're trying not to get distracted by other stories. You know, and they would like nothing better. By the way, the media would love to pull you in a ton of different directions, so you don't focus on one thing. But the big thing right now are these silly drones that nobody's giving us an honest explanation about. You know, we're all being told. I love it when Kirby gets up and says, "They're not ours. We don't know where they came from, but you don't have anything to worry about." And I'm thinking, are you that much of a jerk? I mean, think about what you just said. They're not ours. We don't know where they came from. We don't know whose they are, but you don't have anything to worry about.
Right.
That is the dumbest thing, but they expect you to believe it.
They treat us like children.
Yeah, they do.
And I'm not going to get into some innuendo logic, but you can probably remember some things your parents told you, and you were going, "What? How to?" But that's what we're getting from the government. We're getting logic that doesn't make sense. They're telling us things that just doesn't hold any water at all.
Do you find it suspicious, by the way, that my heart goes out to the victims of that shooting, but we seem to have a shooting almost like I said as a distraction to take the media away from the New Jersey drone story. Even for a short time, maybe they were under so much intense pressure from the public to find out what's going on, they just had to do something. I don't know whether we'll ever know the true story behind some of these shootings. We never really get the total answer. We focus on the story for a day or two or three, and then it fades away. And there's no real follow-up about the school shootings, who these people were. Do you remember that kid who wrote the manifesto in Nashville, who went into that Christian school in Nashville? He had a manifesto. And as soon as the media found the manifesto, learned that he had a manifesto, they wanted to see it. And as soon as that happened, the police said, no.
Well,
why?
What kind of school did he go to?
A Christian school.
Now, some people go, "Oh, those Christians are whack jobs." This was the Abundant Life Christian School. And there's just some kind of weird...
I don't know who would say Christians are whack jobs. I happen to love... I am a Christian, so I...
Well, so am I. I'm just saying, but there's a narrative being painted here. And, kids' minds are mush. And so for this person that's a feminist or was a known feminist from her manifesto and her postings, did she really start that way, or was she trained? And, because there are people out there, the thing that I've been hearing recently is like, well, just like with this shooter for the CEO, sometimes you have to kill somebody just to get attention. No, you don't have to do that, friends. But this is the society we live in. I think they're pushing the gun control issue there, and what better way to do it? Kill two birds with one stone. Go after kids in a school, take a teacher out and a few kids out. Oh, it happened to be, those wacky Christians, the Republican. They like to label things.
Yeah.
So this was a nice bow on a stupid narrative.
There was a movie starring Charles Bronson back in 1977 called Telephone. A Russian officer is sent to the U.S. to try and stop sleeper agents who will mindlessly attack government entities when they hear certain code words on the telephone.
Yeah.
It was called telephone, and that was TELEFON, but it's telephone. It's just, I think, but here's the thing. In 1977, this premise in this movie was, and I remember the movie distinctly, is these are normal people, people in your neighborhood. Hi, how you doing? Nice to see you, Jim. Everything, mowing the lawn, how's the family? Great, And then all of a sudden they would get a phone call in the house. I'll get it, honey. Don't worry. Picks up the phone and they hear a code, just a code word, a signal, something that makes them snap, something that all of a sudden they become almost robotic. They become assassins, trained assassins.
Like hypnosis.
Yes, like hypnosis. And we thought it was a great plot back then. It was a big movie, but we kind of dismissed it as being, who's to say they can't do stuff like that? I'm just saying, you said a little while ago, you don't trust anybody anymore.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I'm not that way in life.
Well, I know, but there's so much to not trust. We know that our government hasn't been straight with us. I mean, I do think that people look to Trump for honesty more than anything else. They trust the guy. Here's a guy with billions of dollars. He doesn't need a damn thing. He's been shot at and hit in the head. And yet he's still standing up and fighting for us because the guy is honest. The guy is honest, and that's what we're fighting. We are craving, a society craving honesty, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we want the truth out there. You can trust Trump. And people are realizing now that everything, pardon the pun here, was trumped up. It was fake. It's, the E. Jean Carroll story is still out there, but I always go back to the fact that, okay, she talks about that dress that she kept all those many years as a reminder, and she wore it to the trial. The only problem with that suit coat dress, it didn't come into style, and it wasn't even designed until 5
years later.
20?
Yeah.
And 5 or 6 years later, it was well after the fact. So how did she have? Did she get the prototype in advance? Did time travel back? The story doesn't make sense. And you look at her character, which they kind of hid. The simple fact is, she had thought that rape was sexy. She talked about it. She's done that when she had her own TV show. She was crazy, and the show lasted one episode.
There's one thing that happened in that case that should make everybody go, All right? The statute of limitations on that case was up. It was the 7 years had come and gone. And they turned around on that case and that case alone, and they removed the statute of limitations, and which that by itself should be enough to disqualify the case, right? They selectively picked out Donald Trump, removed the statute of limitations, found him guilty, and then put the statute of limitations back in again.
Yeah.
But here's what happened yesterday. A judge Monday rejected President-elect Donald Trump's bid to have his hush money conviction dismissed because of the U.S. Supreme Court's recent ruling on presidential immunity. But the case's overall future remains unclear. Manhattan Judge Juan M. Mershon, his decision eliminates one potential off-ramp from the case ahead of Trump's return to office next month. His lawyers have raised other arguments for dismissal, however. So, one thing was removed yesterday, but, Mershon has got, I think he's stuck between a rock and a hard spot right now. He's done something judicially wrong, and he's afraid that if he dismisses the case, they'll look at him. And go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we don't know what's going to happen. We can't foretell the future. We could just say, like back to the drones, this is going on. It's something nefarious. There's probably two players, good guys and bad guys. The Democrats, the Schumers, the Pelosi's, the Schiffs all came out and said Trump will not step foot in the White House. And I take them at their word for that. And even though the left lost miserably, they lost the electoral, they lost the popular vote, they lost it. And they still are holding to that. So this could be the deep state coming in and, suspend the Constitution.
One of my hobbies is I like to write, I used to like to write screenplays and stuff, but, this takes up a lot of my time, this program, so I'm not doing as much of it. But one of the things that I thought about, which I found more than a coincidence, was this kid, Luigi Mangione, right?
I have a problem with that whole thing, but go ahead.
Well, tell me what your problem was.
Well, no, I just think there's more to it than meets the eye. I want to hear what you have to say, but
okay.
I think that this.
Well,
I'm not so sure that it's all wrapped up in a little bow like they're trying to present.
One of the things that I saw was that he spent some time in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Out of nowhere, this kid went from Maryland and school in Pennsylvania to spending time in Hawaii, and then he goes back to the East Coast. Now, this guy Routh, who was he wanted to kill Trump on the golf course. He was the guy who
I was just going to say that.
He was hidden in the hedges. All right.
Where was he before?
In Hawaii.
Yeah.
What the hell were both of these guys doing in Hawaii? Is there a connection of some kind to Hawaii that we don't know about? Is there a school there? Is there some kind of indoctrination center there? Is there something going on? This kid, Mangione, when he was being dragged into the Altoona police station, he was screaming to the press, this is an affront to the American people. You're too smart. You can't believe this. It was almost as if he believed that he hadn't done it.
Well, let me ask you a question. Because we've tied in shooters, we've tied them to Hawaii. There's one other thing that, another shooter is tied to, and that would be Western Pennsylvania, Altoona. So, where is it? The kid that shot
Bethel Park?
Trump.
You mean
Bethel Park?
Yeah, the kid from Bethel Park. Well, that's true. That's a good point. You have the guy arrested, Mangione in Altoona, which is in Western PA, about an hour and 15 minutes from Bethel Park, about an hour and 45 minutes from Butler, PA.
Mm-hmm. Is there a contact or a place that he was headed to and he was spotted, or did he actually make it? And like some people say, this was a setup, because he even said, I didn't do it. I've been said, but anybody, if I did something and they said, you did it, I'd be going, I didn't do it. But now, there's so many questions that are put up. You can't sit there and just take it at face value.
The other thing is, how much do we know about Thomas Matthew Crooks?
Nothing.
We know that, first of all, they just wrapped up the congressional investigation on him, and we've learned zero. Mm-hmm. They put money and time and hearings into this, and they've told us nothing. But we do know that he had 3 offshore bank accounts. What were they? Germany, Belgium, and Australia?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it New Zealand? Germany, Belgium. What the heck did a 20-year-old shooter from Bethel Park, who supposedly worked in the food services area of an assisted living place in Bethel Park, why would he have 3 offshore accounts? The other thing is this: how much do we know about his, quote, parents?
Well, I was going to bring them up. Yeah,
well, let me just say that I've been by the house. I've been by the house where this kid lived. It was a totally generic ranch, one level. They went in there and they said that when they went in, they found the silverware and the china to be like out of the box, pristine, like almost like it was a setup house. Now, I'm not saying it was, because he did go to school in Bethel Park High School. They said he was an all-A student.
But there was a question about the teacher, and all of a sudden the video's been struck down. You don't hear anything about the guy. He taught somewhere else, and he did certain types of teaching, and he was a coach. And, you know, he also was seen in other like videos, kind of a recruiter. Just saying.
Well, who produced the video?
Round Rock.
Black Rock.
What's Black Rock, yeah.
Yeah, Black Rock did it. And they were also connected with another shooting. There was another connection between Black Rock, and I can't think of what it was. The point is, we're just not being told anything. That was July 13th. I don't think President Trump is being told anything about what happened to him.
Now, I will tell you this, now that we mentioned Black Rock, all right? I think last year when I looked with all their assets, they basically control 38% of the world, you know, when you talk about all their holdings. But I was reading somewhere last week that they are getting ready to buy out, if they have not already done it, a major competitor that puts them over the 50 percentile and higher.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Then there are two companies.
With all that access, with all that property comes control.
Well, it's been about control anyway. While we're talking, I'm actually going to see if I can find who it is that they were consuming. But
this kid, Thomas Matthew Crooks. There's more to that story superficially. I mean, we have talked about this, but I'm going to remind people of it because a lot of people they don't pay attention. Mm-hmm. That they suppose he had a van at the site, and he also had a car at the site. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with this part of Western Pennsylvania, Butler is about an hour and 20 minutes from Bethel Park. It's not next to each other. It's a haul. One is up in what they call the North Hills. One is in the South Hills of Pittsburgh. All right? So how did he get two vehicles to that site and get back home? Meaning he had to have somebody help him. Mm. He had to have another driver. He unless he paid an Uber to drive him back, which is a possibility. If he had 3 offshore accounts, he might have had all the money he needed. He might have driven one car up, left it up there, called Uber to pick him up, and paid the Uber driver to drive him home. But that would leave a record. And if there was a record of that, the police would know about it. They would have checked with Uber drivers, I'm sure, to find out whether they ever saw this kid or whether they had any connection with the kid. No, we also played on this program the audio clip, and I'm not going to play it now. I probably still have it. I actually still have it. I'm going to play it for you. I want to play this. This is a reminder. This is a professor who had all of the audio clips of the shooting on July 13th. Listen to what this professor says. It's a much longer clip. I cut it down to 2 minutes. But listen.
This is the 5 that make a very distinct sound. Here's one with a very different crack in it. That's the 6th shot in the string. And then here we have the final last one, which I think is the sniper weapon, which is probably the one that put the bullet just over the left eye of Crooks on the roof. So we're going to take a closer look at the blue, the red, the blacks here and listen to these things. But once again, let's just listen very carefully. We'll go back and forth until you're certain of this yourself. These audio pieces are exactly pulled straight from the video itself. Nothing else. I haven't boosted any. I haven't done any filtering. Raw files, okay? Here's 1, 2, and 3 to start. Okay, listen to that again. Now let's listen to the next string. Ooh. Yeah. Hear that? So 6 sounds different to me, but here's an interesting thing. 1, 2, and 3, besides being muffled and further away, it doesn't have echoes. Here we go. So this here's a shot. This is an echo. Very clearly an echo, and a shot and an echo, and a shot and an echo. So this is actually critical evidence, because you hear that, there's echoes coming off. So that also allows us, again, to analyze where was this gun. But first up, we just have an absolutely different sound between the first 3. There's no echo. It's much further away. It's more muffled. It's just not in the same place at all. But these next ones, very different sound. Totally different weapons. Okay, full stop. We have 2 separate weapons. Plus, we have no echoes coming off of the first 3, and then we do have echoes coming off of the next set. And that last one, that's different. That's not the sniper shot. The sniper shot is another 10 seconds later.
Another 10 seconds later. Now, first of all, if you don't believe in God, listen to that tape and think about what happened. There were, 8 shots fired? President Trump should be dead. If he hadn't turned his head at not just the general time, the precise time that he turned his head, he'd be dead, because it would have taken the back part of his skull off.
Yeah, he was in front of a firing squad.
Yep.
And every bullet missed, or just the one that got there barely nicked him.
Yep.
BlackRock, going back to that, you know they're big and they're bad. Apparently the deal is done. They bought HPS, which is a big competitor and investment partners. Now they got them for $12 billion. But the nearly $150 billion managed by HPS will bring BlackRock's management alternative assets to about $600 billion, according to the Wall Street Journal. They are also taking over Frequin, which is, over in the UK. Kind of the same thing. They've got the deal to buy it, or they may have already bought it. They are taking over all the assets, controlling all of the money.
You have to ask yourself, who's behind these people? When all is said and done, if you really had the time, there's got to be like a handful of people at the very top, of this company that run it all.
You might be buying into a stock or one of those things where they buy a piece of this and a piece of that, so you might own some of BlackRock. It could be some of your money. You don't get the benefits of it. It's the higher-ups that call the shots, or the deep state, if you want to say it's deep state. But it is, it's the money that is driving the forces here. Could they put us into a war and not worry about us? Yep.
Well, could they also have a threatening presidential candidate assassinated? Are they powerful enough to do that? I'm not saying they did, but they sure have the wherewithal, don't they? Holy smokes. But there has to be some connection between Thomas Matthew Crooks and if the connection is only that teacher and that commercial.
Right.
If that's the only connection, there's a connection. They were doing a commercial for BlackRock. It was shot. I'll tell you, friends, there's never been a television commercial shot in the Bethel Park High School in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, before or after that commercial. I mean, it's a suburban Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania school district that is one of many, and there's no reason that they would have gone there unless there was a purpose, ultimate purpose.
And I'm not going to target anybody or say what they do, but there was a person involved that is connected, a recruiter, an enabler. And we'll leave it at that.
You mean, well, okay. All right. We won't.
Because I don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say their name or what they do, because then, but if you do a little research, no, I don't think you can find the commercial anymore. A lot of that stuff got wiped, and
it's amazing how these companies can wipe out these things, take it all completely off the internet, But if there's a video of a young girl in a compromising position, and she grows out of, and she matures, let's say she didn't want to be in that video, and all of a sudden it's out for the world to see, you can't go and scrub that. That's out there forever. But big, powerful corporations, they can clean anything off. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. They can make it go away. It's weird how it works.
We were talking about drones, and all of a sudden we march back to the July 13th assassination attempt. And the reason why we did that is there's so many questions that they just won't answer. There's so many things they won't be truthful with us about. They didn't tell us the real reason behind the assassination attempt. They didn't tell us the real reason behind the assassination attempt in Florida against Trump at the golf course. They didn't tell us about the drones. We're just not being told anything. What do they say? We're like mushrooms. They keep us in the dark and cover us with crap.
Mm-hmm. Now, before we circle it back around and wrap it up, I'm going to mention this. Democratic senator introduced a bill. I don't have his name down here. I don't know why I didn't write it down, but to abolish the Electoral College and basically silence mainstream America. Now, you won, put Trump in not only by the Electoral College, but the popular vote. But the Electoral College is, controlled by the big metropolitan woke areas of the country and don't represent the masses, but they have the number count for the Electoral College.
Electoral College it's designed so that smaller states with lesser populations have a voice. Meaning, right now, if there wasn't an Electoral College, you would have the major cities picking your president.
Calling the shots because they control the mass votes.
But because there's an Electoral College, states like Idaho and Rhode Island and Delaware, they have a voice, even though they haven't got the population.
Well, California, there's a lot of Republicans there, but you got the San Franciscos, the Los Angeleses, and stuff like that have big metropolitan area. And it's not, not all these people, they're here on green cards or whatever, or maybe no cards at all. But they have the right to vote.
They'll let anybody vote in California,
And they carry a lot of weight, and nor should they carry that weight, but they do. But it all gets back down, to right now the big story is the drones, and why it matters. It matters because we don't know what they're doing, but what we can tell you is there is a nuke that's somewhere around, maybe more than one. That's kind of been evident. They do have guns on them because they can shoot one another down. Mm-hmm. And there may be two forces, one good and one bad. And then you've got, what was said.
And by the way, you will see in the media it described as conspiracy theories. And they'll want to poo-poo it. Think of how many conspiracy theories we've had over the last couple of years that have proven to be true. We were told one conspiracy theory was that the feds had people in the January 6th insurrection. And, of course, we were told we were a bunch of fools. We were told, you're idiots. You're making this stuff up. It's a fictional narrative that you're throwing out. Until this week, the FBI comes out and says, oh, well, we had 26 FBI informants and operatives in the crowd working for us. Oh, maybe they weren't FBI agents with the badge, and they didn't go through Quantico, but they were working for the FBI in the crowd.
What happened on ESPN? The commentator Stephen Smith realized January 6th was an inside job after DOJ report, and he started screaming at Democrats for smearing conservatives, saying, I'm sick of it all.
News comes amidst a bombshell report from the Justice Department that revealed the FBI had at least 26 confidential informants on the ground when the Capitol was stormed on January 6, 2021. The report says most of the informants engaged in illegal activity during the chaos. The Justice Department says only 3 of its 26 informants present had been instructed to observe potential domestic terrorist suspects on the day of the riot. The rest of the 23 appeared to have gone to the Capitol on their own accord. Upon hearing news of the report, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance posted the following on X, quote, "For those keeping score at home, this was labeled a dangerous conspiracy theory months ago," end quote. Didn't hear anything about that for the election. Didn't hear anything about that when the quote-unquote insurrection was broached by Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee. The belief that Donald Trump was a danger to democracy and using this as a profound, illuminating bullet point to make that case. And now here we are yet again finding even more evidence to Donald Trump's claims when he articulated that the process is rigged. My big issue is that I'm really, really sick and tired of every time I turn around finding something else that the Democrats have lied about or downplayed or misrepresented along the way. I mean, I see Republicans like Megyn Kelly or Officer Tatum or Candace Owens or, the Sean Hannitys of the world. You know what I'm getting tired of? I'm getting to the Democratic Party. You know what I'm getting really pissed off about? I'm getting really ticked off at every time they open their mouth about something pertaining to y'all, they seem right to make the case that the right had a monopoly on insidious, evil tendencies, corrupt tendencies, duplicitous, hypocritical, untruthful tendencies. And every time they made those accusations, we turn around and find out that at least some of them are guilty of the same shit. I don't know about y'all, but I'm sick of all of it. I'm sick of all of it. They've actually made Donald Trump look like he was right.
Because, Stephen, he was.
Mm-hmm.
You're just waking up like a lot of people.
Well, he's mad as hell, and he's not going to take it anymore. If he were in a class for Dale Carnegie, he would have taken the prize for that particular presentation. If anyone's been to a Dale Carnegie course, you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, I don't even know they do them anymore. But that was a spot-on demonstration of making your point, getting mad. And
what it said to me was he was a guy who trusted what he was told by the people on the left. He thought they were being honest with him, like millions of other people on the left. They thought that their side was telling them the truth. A lot of people on the right, they were saying, hey, they're lying to you. And the people on the left would say, you're full of it, you're conspiracy theorists. And then all of a sudden what they're finding out now, and a lot of people, a lot of his minority friends, his minority brothers in Chicago and in Detroit and in Boston during this last election said, we've already figured that out. We got it down. We know what's going on here. We're voting for Trump. Even in the cities that were blue, Bill, they stayed blue, but by a lesser margin, much lesser margin. They used to be solid blue.
Yeah, the word is getting around, and you know what? It's not a black, white, woman, man, Indian, whatever issue. It's just not. It's about we, the people, and we come in all shapes, forms, sizes, colors, you name it, we are here. And they are taking advantage of us. And he just, he ripped the lid off going, wait, this is nonsense. And that kind of brings us back around, he's saying don't trust the media and what they say because they're lying to you. They're the mouthpiece of a corrupt government.
But
speaking of which,
the left historically has made it white versus black. They've made it a racial thing. They called us racist at every opportunity. If you were a believer, a MAGA member, if you believed in MAGA is not a group, by the way. It's not an organization. You don't raise your hand. All it is a bunch of American patriots who believe in the Make America Great Again philosophy, which is exactly what it means. Better business, better economy, better incomes, better health systems. All these things are part of what MAGA is. Nothing,
You know what?
nothing sneaky about it.
No, I mean, yeah, they gave it a slogan, MAGA, Make America Great Again. They call it MAGA. But you know what? You could be Democrat and on the left and wanting to make America great, then you're a MAGite. You're a MAGA person. And that's just the way it is. Maybe under a different label, but it's for the good of the people. But, I get back to what he's saying about them. And going back to the drones, we're not being told the truth. Oh, there's nothing to fear here. There's nothing this. There's nothing that. No conspiracy. But yet we know that there are some nefarious things in the country. Not one, but several nuclear devices or a lot of containment, a cargo container full of nuclear devices.
In the meantime, right now, while we're doing this program, we just got word they don't care where the conflict really starts, but they want one before the inauguration. They
don't want Trump in.
The Kyiv regime once again resorts to asymmetrical tactics and assassinates a top Russian general in a move that is sure to generate a considerable escalation and also certain retaliation by the Russians against top Ukrainian officials. On today's early morning, an improvised explosive device was detonated on Moscow's Ryazanski Propesk. The massive deadly blast killed high-profile Russian chemical defense chief General Igor Kirillov. Now, this just happened. This happened
about an hour ago.
Yeah, about an hour ago in Moscow. This is if they can get things to escalate, maybe right now Putin has his finger on the nuclear button. He just hasn't pushed yet. But whereas when Trump was in office, his hand wasn't anywhere near the button, right now he's got a finger on it, and he's thinking. And these guys in the Ukraine, it's like they want him to press it.
Well, you know what, though? I don't think he's going to have to, because we got the drones flying around. We've got not nuclear waste, but we've got a cargo container with lost nuclear materials on board. We've got viruses here. We even had the government coming out and say, get ready for a quad virus right around election time, right afterwards. Really? Putin, if he just twiddles his thumb, we're going to nuke ourselves, because that's what it looks like. And these drones are going to be the ones that do it. Yeah, they're maybe good guy drones to shoot things down. What are we going to do as people? Are we going to go start fighting drones, or these drones are going to come and gun us down? Are we going to go into maybe martial law to where we suspend the Constitution? And then, nobody will step. All bets are off, because during that time, they can dismantle the United States. And what you grew up to, that flag that you pledge allegiance to, at that point in time, all bets are off. It'll be gone. And, but I can assure you this. It may not be a good life, but life will go on.
Well,
and at some point in time, it will correct itself, but not in the immediate future.
You can only hope. There are other great countries, great powers that have that ended up going by the wayside. I think of the Roman Empire. They were, for centuries, they were the most powerful group in the world, and then they self-destructed. They became fat and lazy, and they lost their power, and they lost, before you know it, it was gone. It was history.
But the people lived on. They may not have liked what they lived on with, but that's what they lived on, and we will live on. But it may not. We will be the country that will be laughed at and looked down upon, or we'll be looking for the handouts.
Well,
that's.
There are a lot of people who would like to detonate one of those dirty bombs.
Just to see what it'll do.
And they would love nothing better than to do it in a big populated area. These are evil. If you don't believe that there's evil out there, think about that for a second. I remind you, it may be ancient history to some people, 9/11 wasn't all that long ago. I have grandchildren who weren't around for it, but I'll tell you this, it really wasn't all that long ago. In the course of history, it is a freckle on the face of history. All right? It's nothing. We're talking about, 24 years, 23 years? I mean, that's not a long time ago, but we seem to have forgotten. And a lot of people to this day will tell you that they don't believe that that story was told to us honestly either. You also have to wonder whether if Trump gets into office, they're going to be afraid that a lot of these backstories are going to come out.
That's why they're probably going to try to do something to stop the government from ever happening before it happens.
Yep. But we could go on and on. Do you have anything else you want to add before we
I was just going to throw this one thing, the Vatican announcing that donations are down and they're about to go bankrupt.
I saw that. Let me tell you something, folks. First of all, I'm Catholic, and I'm a practicing Catholic. I'll tell you, if they've got more wealth in their buildings and their artwork, don't feel bad, all right? Maybe their operation budget is low because people are getting sick of the politics that they've been playing. They're supposed to be non-political. Their whole purpose on this earth, the Vatican, is the spirit, the soul, all right? But this guy we have in the Pope in the papal chair in Rome has spent most of his career talking socialism and making stupid remarks about politics, and he has alienated a lot of faithful Catholics. And then it's a matter of truth. Now, it doesn't mean that these people have wandered away from the belief, but a lot of them just aren't participating like they used to participate. You know, and I would say this: don't worry about the Catholic Church. They could sell a couple of paintings and get back on their feet. Okay, I mean, you look at the Sistine Chapel. Look at those buildings in the Vatican worth tens of millions of dollars. They've got more assets than you can believe. So when they say that their operation budget is low and they're having a hard time meeting the bills, don't believe it. The other thing is this: Jesus. He didn't work out of the Vatican. Jesus was never rich. Jesus was a poor guy who lived on the love of his friends, actually. So don't, when you hear about how, my God, the Vatican's having a hard time, there's stories of them having vaults of gold in the basement. They just don't want to cash it in, all right? But they've got more money than they'll ever need. And I also think that if it means that a few of those guys have to get off their derriere and go out and be priests again, and actually teach the faith, so be it.
Well, they might have to do a little reading to, remember it all.
Yeah, well,
they probably have lost
touch. It's been a
touch.
while. Yeah, exactly.
Just saying, that's all,
Yep. I should remind people that if you want to make your day a little easier, boy, we all could use that nowadays, huh? With all the pressure of what's going on. Right Side Coffee, Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee, available at rightsideshop.com, rightsideshop.com.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Please go there. We don't get all of the profits from these items that we sell in the Right Side Shop. We get a percentage, and that percentage is going to go for the growth of our program in the upcoming year. We're already in our fourth year. Can you believe that? Holy
Started
smokes.
Started yesterday.
Well, it started yesterday. That's right. Yesterday was our third anniversary, of doing the show.
Did they send a cake to you?
You didn't get yours?
No, I was asking if you got yours.
Yeah, it was delicious.
You didn't share. I like cake. Don't tell me that it was a German chocolate cake.
Yeah, I won't tell you that it was a German chocolate cake and it was delicious. I won't tell you that.
Yeah.
Really.
Man.
I have to tell you, we do think alike because I love German chocolate cake.
It's my favorite cake.
Do you think I would share that with you? No way.
Well, there you go. Now you know what to send us. Well, now I know one thing I like that you don't like.
What?
I'm probably the only person. I'm talking. I'm not. Well, I'm listening to myself in the headphones, so I'll say the only person listening right now that loves for the holidays, fruitcake. I love fruitcake.
Well, I like fruitcake too. Some
Well,
people
then send us. Look, you get a fruitcake, send it to us because you don't want it.
That's true, but
We'll put it to use.
But everything that I like is fattening. Everything I like is fattening, or against the law. I know,
Jim. I'll tell you what you do
What?
when you run into food that you perceive as fattening.
Yes.
Don't look at the calories, because if you look at the calories, then you know that's what you're consuming. But if you don't know it, it doesn't have any effect.
I
on
started a new diet called the mirrorless diet.
you. Oh boy, just don't look in the mirror.
No, don't look in the mirror. You don't look in the mirror. You go mirrorless. You just take all your mirrors out of your house, and you'll feel much better about yourself, no matter what.
Marvelous, the mirrorless, marvelous diet.
Exactly. Works all the time. Anyway, friends, that's just about going to do it. Another program. I know it's a lot of speculation today, a lot of different
I
avenues.
love speculation.
Yeah, but we don't mean to scare you, but we do mean we want you to think about what's going on. Just don't go around with blinders on. There's a lot that's happening in your world right now that you're not being told the truth about, and if you have an opportunity to, maybe straighten things out with friends, I mean, if you are aware, then you maybe can take steps to protect yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm done. If you want to wrap it up with your traditional goodbye, now would be a good time.
Okay, then without further ado, hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.